Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pat Gelsinger.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to VMworld 2017. With 20,000 plus here on site in Vegas and thousands more online. In fact, if we could bring up the house lights now, and for those online, if you could just see everybody here in the auditorium now, be a little crazy. A wave, shake, yeah, woo! Yeah, you want to be here in person next year, and you're missing a lot by not being here, but thanks for joining online. On behalf of VMware, it is my pleasure to have you with us today. And this, my sixth VMworld, and it was on this stage 5 years ago that I received the honor of being the CEO of this great company, but also of this great community and ecosystem. And for me, I just say thank you for giving me such an honor of being able to take this role. We've been following the events closely in the situation in Texas, and can you believe 50 inches of rain and the devastation from Hurricane Harvey? And our thoughts and heartfelt wishes and prayers go out to everyone in that affected region. And I would just encourage each one of you to consider making a generous donation to organizations like the Red Cross in consideration for that devastation that they're having there. We've reached an interesting moment in the evolution of technology, and each one of us as technologies have just always been sort of fascinated by science fiction, but we're seeing science fiction become science fact for our everyday use. And, if we go to science fiction, how many of you remember the movie Alien, where you saw Ellen Ripley, put on that exoskeleton to go out and fight the alien in that movie? Well, now, here we are in 2017, and what was science fiction is now everyday fact for South Korean ship and steel workers strapping on their exoskeleton and becoming superhuman. Or maybe from the world of science fiction, how many of you remember the famous "Beam Me Up, Scotty" from Kirk when he's in a tough situation? And while we might not be quite ready for beam me up, as Einstein called quantum entanglement, spooky action at a distance, we've now been able to, Chinese researchers have been able to demonstrate, photon quantum entanglement from Earth to a satellite 300 miles away. Not quite beam me up yet, but amazing, the spooky action now at a large distance. Hollywood also loves this idea of, genetically modified insects, and we've seen this with ants, bees, flies, and spiders. Well, a science fact today, CRISPR, this ability to permanently modify DNA structures, is being used to create Zika-resistant mosquitoes to maybe combat that in a fundamental and permanent way. I guess for me personally, I'm looking for the, mosquito modification that it causes it not to bite me in the future. But as we consider these in this era of radical scientific change, the question is, what's the most profound change of them all? And I'd say of them all, maybe it's our expectations, our everyday. Now my 1-year-old granddaughter, Abigail, and by the way, she is the cutest 1-year-old, I will admit. She pinches, swipes, and pokes when she gets my phone or tablet in her hand. Can you believe that at 1 year old? It's hard to believe that our perspective has changed so radically in such a short period of time. And a great example, how many of you have been in a self-driving car, right? A number of you. Now, as I've talked to people, and I did it myself a couple of times, the most amazing thing is you get in the car and you're like, whoa, nobody's at the wheel, right? You're just in this almost fearful, frightening. And then, right, at about minute 2 through 5, fierce questioning. How does this work? What are the sensors doing? What happens if we lose internet connectivity? What happens if a car swerves in front of me? And I'm a geek. This intense questioning probably took me 5 minutes, not 3. But then, somewhere around minute 4 or 5, fierce boredom sets in. This car drives slower and more cautiously than my grandmother on Sunday. When are we going to get there? And it's a metaphor for what's happening in our age. You know, we see this dynamic playing out industry by industry by industry. Simply put, tech is leaving the nest of tech. And we see it across every one of these where they're having their breakout moments. And these are just 5 representative industries, but in every case, we're seeing tech-driven models restructure these entire industries from the front office to the back office. And just a couple of these examples. You know, how many of you remember your first digital audio experience, maybe from Real Media or Real Audio or Winamp? You remember that? Right? And, you know, that was about 20 years ago. And amazingly, the traditional enterprise or media and entertainment industry, movies, books, you know, concerts, right, has continued to grow, but it's flatlined. And now, right, last year, digital media and entertainment surpassed it, and it's on its way to be a $1 trillion industry. We just crossed the halfway point. And I, you know, as a data-driven guy, it's always, when do we hit halfway? And we're now halfway there. And we're excited as we're working with a number of companies and, you know, media and entertainment companies on their transformation. And one of those, Scripps Networks, we'll hear a little bit more from them later today. You know, they're lifestyle entertainment and Food Network, Cooking Channel, Travel Channel. Those are, you know, the ones my wife likes, right? And, you know, huge global demand for their programming, and now looking for a private and hybrid cloud experience to enable their environment globally. You know, if you think about e-commerce, again, it was about 20 years ago. You know, companies like Amazon and Alibaba, and I was shocked when I saw this statistic that even as fast and as disruptive and change has occurred in that area, we're 1/10 there. And even though digital may be guiding choices and purchases, still the industry is only 1/10 changed. Stunning. Or maybe, and these are some of the customers that we're working with, and, you know, in that area. Nike, right? You know, the ability to design your own shoe, either in the store or online. I've done mine. Have you done yours yet? And in other industries, we still have a long way to go. And maybe healthcare is one that we're on the cusp of transformation. As we think about that, you know, I think of good industries are 50-50 on this metric. 50% of IT is going into new customer experiences and 50% into keeping the lights on. In Medicare, we're 50%, we're at 80% today. Quality of life, life expectancy is improving dramatically, but a long way to go in what tech can do in this area. And later today, we'll have Medtronic on stage with us to give their story of how they're changing this picture. But in each one of these, if we take a step back, we've seen a fundamental shift in what labor and lifestyle means. 200 years ago, 85+% of the Americans were consumed in agriculture. This is my heritage. I'm from a farming family on the East Coast. My world, and, you know, one time, you know, maybe 15 years ago, you know, I was at a table with all of my uncles at a family reunion. My dad's a family of 10, and here are all of his uncles and uncle-in-laws. Not one of them have all of their fingers. I think this change on this slide is just fine. The quality of life improvements, the improved efficiency that have resulted. Farming is not a bad life, but it is a very tough life. And as we think about manufacturing, you know, we're not about bringing jobs back, we're about automating them away so that we can create higher value roles and changing industry. And as we look at that industry framework today, the rest of the economy, now, you know, almost 9 out of 10 jobs in services and retail and healthcare, we're about creating higher value, higher paying jobs in the future and changing the quality of life as a result. You know, and as I think about, some have said, the 3 R's of education, read, write, and arithmetic. In the future, it's read, write code, and arithmetic. And as we think about those industries, you know, every one of them has a common theme. It's about the apps. Fundamentally, customers need to reshape their businesses around the customer experience and the applications and software skills to do that. That's what are making the winners and losers of tomorrow. And the essence of the VMware strategy is enabling businesses to create and deliver apps for their businesses. And we summarize it in this simple picture that brings together all the things that we're doing. Any device, any application, any cloud with intrinsic security. And we're broadening that picture, and we're now seeing our technologies and what we have done as an industry reach into telco networks. And with these things called NFV, network function virtualization, they're almost entirely unvirtualized. And now here we are reaching in and helping them virtualize and get the efficiencies in their core networks. Also with edge, tech is breaking out of tech, but we're stretching and reaching further to have all of these machine-connected devices. And, you know, this is year 36. I'm entering year 37 in the industries. I know I look like I'm 35, but year 37 in my career in the industry. And, you know, as you've been in the industry that long, you start to detect patterns. And one of those is what I'll call the shift from centralization to decentralization. You know, we started with the mainframe computer, right? And then client server and internet and mini computer. And we've seen this ebb and flow from centralization to decentralization. And the cloud has been a force of centralization over the last decade or so. And IoT and edge, right, pushes us back toward more decentralization, as many of these edge devices require a capability and data generation at the edge. You know, we think of this in the, a simple phrase, cloud to edge, and where the physical world connects with the digital world. Devices producing massive amounts of data, much of it local, explosion of apps and services, an increasing surface area for security and exploits. And this is why we announced at Dell EMC World earlier this year the VMware Pulse set of IoT technologies for factories, for smart cities, for oil rigs. And we're thrilled that our partnership with Fujitsu has now expanded to be working with Toyota, the largest car manufacturer in the world, to deliver Pulse IoT in a beta of what that next generation in-car experience can be, right, as we control and manage it. Millions of cars, billions of devices. Wow, our industry is reaching further than ever before. You know, and looking again at this picture, let's dig in a little bit on any app, any device portion of it. You know, apps fundamentally are about unleashing the potential of your most valuable resource. And our goal is simple: give you access to those applications on any device in any modality and usage model of your choice. Now, this is the picture of what that app world looks like today. It's complex and messy. And as you think about it in your organizations, you realize that not only is it messy, but it also crosses lots of silos inside of your organization in different areas. And much of that complexity isn't focused on the total solution. VMware's strategy in this space is put it all together. And that's what Workspace ONE is about, bringing all of those pieces together to deliver consumer simple, but enterprise secure. And Workspace ONE has three fundamental elements. One, apps and identity, consistent environment across whatever app with single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. That's powerful. Second, for the operations environment, consistent management and security, and IT is in control, delivered either on-premise or as a service. And this is where Horizon Air and what we've done for delivering that as a service, and areas like our Azure partnership have gone extremely well. Excitement about this kind of capability across all the devices and usages, and across desktop and mobility. AirWatch began its journey with Apple and iOS devices. We then expanded that to include Android, a deepening of that relationship with Samsung, and then a move into Windows devices, and Microsoft has declared that SCCM and that management model is now dead. Move on to a modern, unified endpoint management architecture. And at Dell EMC World, a deepening of our relationship with Dell and integrating Workspace ONE directly with Dell clients. Last week with Chromebooks, and now the exclusive partner with them in managing Chromebook environments. And today, we are broadening the world's broadest ecosystem yet again. And we're excited to announce today that Dion Wexler, the CEO of HPI, has partnered with us to embrace Workspace ONE. Let's hear from Dion right now.
Hello everyone at VMworld 2017. HP and VMware are long-time partners. Today, I'm excited to announce an even deeper extension of our collaboration. During your event, we're announcing that VMware's unified endpoint management solution will be incorporated into HP's Device as a Service offering. VMware's endpoint management solution will be a key component of our managed service offering, enabling customers to use real-time actionable insights and world-class security monitoring. In partnership with VMware, we're delivering the next generation of device usage. Today is an exciting day for both of our companies. Thanks to VMware, and together, let's keep reinventing.
Thank you, Dion, and the HP team. And while I love talking about Workspace ONE, it's even better to hear directly from customers and their experience. And to help facilitate that conversation, it's my pleasure to have Sanjay Poonen, the COO of Customer Operations, be able to facilitate that conversation today with Capital One. Let's hear from Capital One.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to go from sort of main stage to our field corner here. I'm going to play sort of Anderson Cooper in talking to our customer, Jennifer Manry, who is Managing Vice President of End User Computing, Identity and Access Management at Capital One. And Jennifer, before we start, I've got to say I'm a big fan of Samuel Jackson, and I had to do the obligatory, what's in your wallet?
Love it.
So I've got the Capital One card here. You guys have been a phenomenal innovator, one of the first to adopt cloud. I remember seeing Rob Alexander in AWS conference. You're doing a lot with them, more on that later. But also in the end user world, this whole digital transformation and the way in which business and IT transforms, you guys have been visionaries. How is that playing out at Capital One?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people think of us as the what's in your wallet people. They think of us as a credit card company or a bank. That's actually not how we see ourselves. We actually think of ourselves as a technology company that happens to also be a bank. But you don't get to call yourselves just a technology company and poof, be a technology company. I mean, we really focus on delivering very rich digital immersive experiences to our consumers, anticipating what they need. But we realized several years ago, in order to be able to do that, we really needed to change the way we operate and deliver software to our consumers. And so that really changed several years ago with us taking a sharp right turn away from waterfall delivery, moving to Agile and DevOps, and outfitting our employees with the things that they needed to deliver those experiences. And we've been on a huge transformative journey ever since then, really embracing new technology, like you said, cloud, and hiring thousands of software engineers and designers to be able to continue our progress forward in that transformation.
It's amazing. Here's a financial services company talking like a tech company with Agile and DevOps. Now, how has that played out in the end user landscape? Give us a sense of, you've got phones, you've got tablets, you've got laptops and desktops. We just announced this deal with HP. You must be pretty excited about that too, given that's in your landscape. How is that device proliferation look at Capital One?
Sure. I think when we started looking at becoming more like a technology company, we also had the realization that you can't have people come into the enterprise and not have a great experience with the tools and software that we give to them to do their jobs. And we have now seen that the expectations are changing in the workforce, driven largely by the experiences people have in their personal and consumer lives. And they want to come into the enterprise and feel that they can operate with their colleagues in the same way they operate with their friends and family outside. And so we realized that we needed to rip out and replace a lot of the technology we have and provide much more modern capabilities to our associates. And part of that started with devices. I mean, we've got a very heterogeneous device landscape. We've got Macs and Windows machines. We've got different kinds of mobile devices. And with that comes the overhead of having to be able to manage those effectively, but we really were striving to unify that experience. We want everyone to have a great experience no matter what device they choose to work on. And frankly, our associates are carrying multiple devices, so we want them to be as effective and proficient on their laptop as they are on their mobile phone. So we've actually been using great tools provided to us by VMware, whether it be AirWatch to deliver these secure experiences to our mobile users, and also Workspace ONE to unify and make a consistent experience across those endpoints. So we want to make sure that people have a great experience no matter what device they use, and that we can administer and manage those endpoints really effectively. So through using the VMware tools and the partnerships that we've had, we've been able to really achieve some of our great end user goals as well.
So you've got iOS, you've got Android, you've got Windows 10, from a combination of AirWatch, Workspace 10, all unified. But you also got some, legacy Windows applications that you'll need to kind of use maybe VDI desktop as a service, and you're now using Horizon Cloud.
We are.
How does that usage play out too? So you've got, full digital user experience.
I think it plays out in the way that that consistent unified experience across those devices, whether it's the virtual environment or the actual physical environment, we're able to deliver a very consistent experience and manage all of those endpoints in a really consistent way. And so that's how that's really coming to life for us.
And Jennifer, this has been a partnership, right? When I first got to meet you, it's not always easy. There are bumps in the road. Talk a little bit about the partnership. It's very important to us at VMware. It's not just a client relationship, it's a partnership.
Sure.
How has that played out?
And I think it's important to bring that up. I rarely look for a software provider to come in and just hand me licenses and say, go forth and prosper and be great at this. I look for strategic partnerships where we can see a collective win in what we're doing, and that's certainly what I've gotten from VMware. I mean, our engineers who know Capital One requirements and what we need the most sit alongside of Workspace ONE engineers, and we talk about things, we share expertise across them, and we develop in a collaborative way the proof of concepts and pilots that we've used to drive towards our progress to achieving these goals. And so it's very much an investment of both teams in a collective win. VMware gets to see their product be successful at Capital One, and we get to achieve some of our really audacious end user goals using the tools.
Well, you've been a visionary. It's always a pleasure connecting a customer directly with the engineers and pushing us into some of these areas like the cloud. As we wrap up, give us a little bit of vision about where you see this all headed.
Sure.
How is this end user landscape going to look like over the course of the next several years?
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone here knows that technology is changing so very quickly. And as I mentioned, our associates' expectations change as their experiences happen differently in their personal lives. And so we're constantly in the business of assessing and reassessing the capabilities we provide out to our associates, knowing that we've got to infuse the latest and greatest technology advancements into their experience, because that's what helps them create the experiences for our customers. So things like machine learning, better mobile experiences, those all come to light for us from an associate perspective, but then play out in how we deliver our experiences to our consumers.
That's great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you hear it from a visionary and an incredible brand, Capital One. I hope that's what you all have in your wallets. But thank you, Jennifer. Let's give it up for Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Pat.
It's a great story, and thank you, Jennifer, for joining us here on stage. As we now look more at that vision, let's go to cloud, but start with private cloud. And talk about mind-blowing technologies. Remember your first experience with Workstation or ESX, and you were just like, wow, how does that work? How can you do that through this piece of software? Right? And I remember my first exposure. Diane and Mendel, the founders of VMware, they came to see me, and I was running the server business for Intel at the time, right? And so they come walk into my office and they start describing how 10 servers can become 1 or 20 server chips can become just 2. And I'm like, Diane, you know what business I run, don't you? But they were absolutely undeterred, right? They kept selling me to partner and work with them, in this mind-boggling technology. And I wasn't alone in my reaction. In fact, many of the early VMware salespeople, they would describe this disbelief, anger, frustration, euphoria that would emerge from their first customer experience. And in fact, what we found was some early footage from some of those first VMware sales calls. And if we could just show you one of those right now. You see that high-priced talent that we brought on stage to do this with us? Steve Herod, right? CTO for VMware for many years, is still a great friend of ours. From that early, awesome, mind-boggling experience, we've gone on and we've now virtualized the entire data center, and we've turned it into a cloud, a private cloud, but it's not cloud-like easy, and you've told us that it's too hard. And our job is to make it easy to deploy, easy to manage. And today we're excited to deliver Skyline predictive support to further improve that management experience, and also easy to secure. And you might remember this picture of the past. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I was cleaning out my garage and I found my electronics toolbox. And inside, that was when I was a technician. And I opened it up. I found that soldering iron was in there, and I found my voltmeter, and I replaced the batteries, and it's still working. I was so excited right at the time. And I remember, I built a PC with my son. Right, it was a water-cooled, overclocked, dual graphics machine. I mean, whoa, it was good. Right, and in fact, we just retired it a couple of years ago. Today, there's a better way. We expect a fully integrated system that just works. And that's our philosophy as we approach the space now. We have to make the private cloud easier, and that's what VMware Cloud Foundation is all about. Yeah, you can buy the pieces, the compute, virtualization, network, and storage, or you can get the full thing put together. And that's what VMware Cloud Foundation, bringing those pieces together with automated lifecycle management. And today we're thrilled to be delivering version 2.2 of VMware Cloud Foundation, the latest of all of the VMware software technologies, lifecycle management, delivered both on-premise and as the foundational technology for in the cloud as well. And we also see that another key step in this area is what we'll call hyperconverge, bringing together the hardware and the software. And today, vSAN has over 10,000 customers. Just incredible. We're adding over 100 customers a week to this product. And with vSAN Ready Nodes, building world-class hardware relationships. Now we have 12 server partners, 2 OEM partners, and over 250 separate SKUs. Also, vSAN, and is a killer technology. And I know when I was running chips for Intel, we were always searching for that killer application or use case that would show off our latest silicon. Well, vSAN is it for 14G and the latest Intel scalable server chips, and the latest of all flash storage. Nothing shows it off better than vSAN. But of course, the best way to buy it is as a complete appliance. And VxRail, now the #1 HCI appliance at Dell EMC. Today, Dell and EMC are also announcing vRack SDDC, the latest version, taking advantage of VMware Cloud Foundation 2.2 and the latest of PowerEdge and Flash Story. Really an awesome platform. And we continue to improve our core foundational technology, vSphere 6.5, with improved backup, integrated log insight, latest of vSAN capabilities, vCenter now for high availability, and as you'll hear about a little bit later in our talk, for security as well. So lots is happening in the area of private cloud. But let's now turn to public cloud. And you might be the only person on the planet who doesn't know about the partnership that we announced with Amazon late last year. And today, we're delivering on that promise. Please join me in welcoming Andy Jassy, CEO of AWS, to the stage of VMworld. Andy, it really is great to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having us. We've been working together for a long time to get to today, so it's great to be here with all of you.
Yeah, you know, any journey, hundreds of engineers working on things, it is thrilling to get to this day and announce the availability of VMware Cloud on AWS starting now. And this really is the ultimate hybrid solution, you know, that we've developed together, the ability to run any application on vSphere and now be able to seamlessly take that private cloud environment and move it into the public cloud and use VMware software that you're familiar with to manage both your on-premise as well as your in-the-cloud infrastructure as well.
Yeah, as more and more mainstream enterprises have started making their long-term plans in the cloud, they would say to us, it's great that you've built a bunch of tools that make it easy for us to run our on-premises data centers alongside AWS, but since most of the world is virtualized on VMware, and since AWS and VMware haven't really done anything to integrate seamlessly, you're forcing us into this binary choice where either we move to the cloud with AWS and we can't use the VMware tools we've been using for a long time, or we stick with the VMware tools and it's much harder to use AWS in the cloud. And they hated this binary decision that we were forcing on them. And so VMware Cloud on AWS gives them the best of both worlds. It gives them the world's leading private cloud provider, alongside easily being able to be used with the world's leading public cloud provider. It's, the offering is really the only one that's operated and managed by VMware, and you can use your licenses to leverage here, and so people are pretty fired up about this.
Yeah, we're really excited about it, but also our customers are excited about it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about. You know, as I mentioned earlier, as a customer, if you can use the same tools that you've been using to manage your on-premises infrastructure and easily run that with AWS, it's very attractive. And then you get the same operational consistency and compatibility you're used to using with this offering. You don't have to kind of adopt a brand new operating model for your on-premises infrastructure. You don't have to adopt a new model just to be able to get consistency between your on-premises and your cloud environments. You can use vCenter and the same tools you're used to running your infrastructure and run those easily alongside AWS. And then at the same time, it's much more cost effective than what you could do otherwise. I think if you look at some of the other options out there for this type of offering, it costs a few $100,000 to spin up a few instances plus professional services. And then to do anything meaningful, you're looking at a couple $1 million. Yick. So this is much more cost effective, what we're doing together.
And here's a sampling of some of the early customers, and you know, we've just gotten great reaction from our Lighthouse and beta customers as well, and some of their use cases are quite compelling as well. For instance, Moody's, the credit rating service, you know, it's a great example customer looking at cloud migration. You know, and they're looking to capture those cost efficiencies that you were just describing, some of the agility, but they didn't want to refactor their current applications and were struggling with how they could move to the cloud without having to re-platform and re-architect their applications. And VMware Cloud on AWS solved that for them, a low-risk path to the cloud with minimal disruption to their IT and business operations.
Yeah, or you can look at a company like Ricoh, which makes printers and cameras, and they have a bunch of compute-intensive R&D they do where they're going to use the offering to do cyclical computing and disaster recovery.
Yeah, and you know, another customer, Scripps Networks, that I referenced earlier in the keynote. You know, and as they expand globally, they're interested in hybrid services to execute their next generation app structure, even as they're using it to scale up more rapidly internationally. It's how do they build their next generation app services as well. So that's part of what they're looking at for this capability. You know, and we're also seeing a lot of enthusiasm from our partner ecosystem. Key system integrators, and DXC is a great example of that, where DXC, really the formation of CSC along with the HP services business coming together. They were a great partner of yours for Amazon as well. They've been a great partner of ours as well. And now as we bring our capabilities together, they're excited to really lead in making this hybrid service offering something that they can bring to market in a powerful way.
And Accenture and Deloitte and Capgemini and Rackspace, those are some other systems integrators that are really excited about the offering and have really gotten themselves prepared to help all of you to start taking advantage of it.
Yeah, and as you see on the slide here as well, even though this is just the initial availability of the service, we already have a rich ecosystem of tech partners who are bringing their capabilities specifically designed and validated for this service offering already in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about the roadmap a little bit and where we're going, because this, as a cloud service, initial availability is just the beginning. Right, and even though it's available today in one availability zone in the West region, we'll be moving that to the East Coast region and then internationally. And our commitment is to have it available globally, that before the end of next year, every one of your availability zones is a center for the VMware Cloud service as well.
Yeah, well, any type of roadmap for us, is, and I'm sure it's true for you as well, is driven by what all of you tell us matters to you. And the vast majority of what we build as a whole in AWS is driven by what customers want. And the same will be true here. We'll listen very closely to what you'd like to see us continue to build together and do so. And there's some obvious ones, geographic expansion, as Pat just mentioned, and there's a whole bunch of ways that I think together, along with our partners, will help you get going on top of the offering. But, I'd also say that most of these types of partnerships that you see tend to be optical and really marketing flash rather than substance. There's not much going on with the teams beneath the announcement. And I would say the opposite is really true here. I think, from the very start, both Pat and I have been deeply involved, and our senior leaders, and really the teams up and down have, I think, a pretty unusual working relationship where they've gotten a lot done in a short amount of time, very collaboratively, which I think bodes well for all of you, that we will not only be able to listen to what you care about and iterate on your behalf, but also it's just really the beginning of what we can do together.
Yeah, and as the engineering teams, marketing teams, we're really just scratching the surface of what we're going to do together, Andy.
Great.
This is really thrilling. Well, thank you so much to the VMworld audience. Thank you, Andy, for joining us. You honor us by your presence here. Let's again thank Andy Jassy. At this time last year, we described the VMware Cloud strategy. And as we've just covered, make private cloud easy. You challenged us as customers to say, develop these major partnerships with the cloud providers, just like we heard about from Andy now with our AWS partnership. Also expand our cloud partner network. And last year, we had IBM on stage, and we're seeing great momentum from that partnership. But you've also said there's other services where we need to embrace and take advantage of native cloud services and make those available as well. And responding to that, we launched an effort that really listens to what CIOs are telling us around the world. And we've heard this consistently from Asia, Europe, and Americas. Help us to get there faster. Help our existing apps. Help us embrace the future and do that securely as well. And the response to that is what we'll call our VMware Cloud services that enable a consistent infrastructure across these cloud environments, what you just heard with Amazon and IBM, partners like Virtustream and what we're doing to make SAP and mission-critical clouds available, OVH leading in the hybrid services area with us, but also embracing native services on other clouds like Azure or Google Cloud, and helping to have consistent operational environments even for native services in those areas. And even though we love if everybody built to our stack, we realize that we have an opportunity to respond to customers' desires and uniquely enable experience across all clouds. And that's what VMware Cloud Services is all about. And today, I'm excited to announce the availability of our first 7 VMware Cloud services, services that give you increased visibility across clouds, that offers NSX as a common networking and security layer across multiple clouds, that helps you allocate and manage resources across private and public to discover and introspect and get metrics across those environments, while simultaneously increasing the security for the data and applications. The VMware Cloud Services. So as we look at this, we really see the VMware Cloud strategy is about these four things: consistent infrastructure across clouds, consistent operations across any cloud, the richest network of VMware cloud-based global service provider partners, and finally, IT agility while reducing complexity and risk. So again, let's hear from a customer who's taken advantage of this. Right now, let's hear from Medtronic.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with our second customer in this little field corner. I love this little dual stage thing going on, and I'm really honored to have another great brand here. Medtronic needs no introduction, an incredible brand in medical technology, and with me is Karine Semmer, Head of IT, Hosting Transformation and Modernization Program. Karine, it's great to have you.
Thank you, Sanjay.
I think you've got one of your props here, so tell us about this wonderful medical technology.
Yeah, so what we have here today is an MRI SureScan. It's just one of many of the medical devices that we have. And a little known fact that you may not know, last year 65 million people benefited from a Medtronic device. That's 1 every 2 seconds.
That's awesome. We feel so honored to be working with customers who are doing so much to help save people's lives. Maybe we can start there. Tell us a little bit about the business and IT transformation that Medtronic has been going through, because you're a phenomenal brand, but you've also been transforming the company.
Yeah, so our CEO, Omar, his vision has changed really from one of a medical device industry to one of services. And so very much this transformation around services and services brokering, looking at healthcare and the challenges that you have both economically and clinically. We've got a growing population, aging population of patients. In addition to that, we have chronic disease on the increase and regulatory requirements that create a number of challenges as well. And so it's requiring companies like Medtronic in the healthcare industry to really transform how they provide those services.
That's awesome. There's sort of a parallel of your moving device technology to services, to us trying to do product and services. I'd like to focus in a little bit on kind of the use of our products together. You've been one of the pioneers in driving the private cloud and then the movement to the public cloud with our cloud management products and also Cloud Foundation. How have you made the case for all the innovation you're doing in the private cloud, and where has that taken you?
So to be very candid, some of it was technical obsolescence with a private cloud, our existing platform, just being at a point where we needed to do something differently in order to continue growing the company, required additional flexibility, capacity, security, which is one that we all talk about, particularly as we talk about cloud platforms. And so that was a significant driver, and the growth of Medtronic and where Omar sees us going. So that was our investment in the private cloud. We have a global instance, 5 data centers, and should be going to production shortly here in about 2 weeks.
VMware Cloud Foundation working on top of Dell EMC, really good, state-of-the-art, lowering cost and complexity. You're also one of the early adopters looking at VMware Cloud and AWS. What do you see as promise? I know it's early days, but what do you see as the promise of where the public cloud could take you?
So right now we're very early days looking at what some of the opportunities are, and some of the use cases that we're looking at are archival, disaster recovery, burst capacity. You know, the one challenge, which I think many of you will recognize if you've done anything contractually around licensing, going from on-prem to cloud, that again is our more significant challenge, that's true for the cloud industry.
That's so true. And you've, again, just like our conversation with Jennifer, it's been a real partnership. You've pushed us in areas where we need to optimize our private cloud, you know, early days of public cloud. How has that partnership gone?
Good. It's like any relationship. You know, you're in for the long haul. There's good days, there's bad days. Sometimes separate vacations are good. Very good. And on that note, by the way, there's a big team of Medtronic and our account team here too, so I just want to say hello. I know you're sitting somewhere over there.
Thank you for being here, all the Medtronic folks.
Yeah. So again, you know, I think it's something that you have to recognize you're going in for the long haul when you do this. It's a learning, it's a journey, it's transformative, it's new, it's bold.
We are in it with you. We don't need to go on vacation together, but we're in it together.
That's good.
With you, and we are here to help you.
Stage on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is good.
Well, I know, just in wrapping up, just so amazing what your company is doing for the world, saving lives. But this is also deeply personal for you in terms of the impact. You're passionate about women in technology. You're passionate about the impact in the community. Talk a little bit about that, because I think it's a good way to inspirationally end our conversation.
Yeah, so women in technology, I started in this field 30 years ago, and I was in the Air Force, so Air Force vet. Yeah. And so being a role model, being an example, doing things like this and encouraging young women to pursue careers in technology, very, very important to me, a big passion. The second part of this is that Medtronic is a very philanthropic company, very devoted, committed to community. And for me, something that's important for a company is to be that philanthropy example. Last year, they donated 2% of pre-tax profits, $114 million, to local charities. I benefit from that, not personally, but I have a foundation, the Philip G. Sember Prostate Cancer Research Fund, which recognizes and supports research scholars at the University of Minnesota. And with their employee match program, I've been able to raise $1 million in the last 5 years. So thank you, Medtronic Foundation.
That's great. Well, Karine, I am going to share this story with my daughter, Sophia. I'm hoping she'll be inspired by role models like you. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Karine Sember. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Sanjay. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Karine, and what a great story. You know, what I'd like to do now is just dig in, right, to one of the underlying technologies inside of both private and public cloud. Let's talk about networking. You know, clearly at the heart of everything we're doing now at VMware is networking, NSX, network virtualization. And NSX is becoming this connective tissue that ties everything together. You know, clearly it's become central to what we're doing with private clouds and our mobile and desktop environment. Today, with what we've announced with our VMware Cloud services, our partnership with Amazon, we're stretching NSX into the public cloud as well, and it's becoming a key way that we connect between those two worlds in a consistent way. You know, tomorrow, if I can just give you a little teaser, we'll talk about how we're stretching it into native, container, and new app frameworks as well. We're also extending NSX to be a connective tissue to IoT and branch, allowing consistent network and security models. We're also bringing it into the core telco networks as well. Then you're seeing that NSX is becoming the secret sauce behind most everything that we do. And you know, maybe what vSphere was to the first 20 years of VMware, NSX is becoming to the next decade or two. It's that important. And if you're not using it today, you're already behind. We see this as so powerful and transformational as a key component of what we do. You know, and today we're excited to have the largest food service distributor in the world, Cisco, with us to talk about their journey as well. Not to be confused with that other Cisco with a similar name. You know, please join me in welcoming Cisco.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're talking with the real Cisco about networking. Matt Nikolaev, Senior Director of Cloud Infrastructure. Glad you guys found that funny. But, you know, you guys are an incredible brand, and I've asked all of the companies to bring their prop, and, you know, tell us about this little prop here.
Sure. So this is a much smaller version of the trucks that we have out on the road across the world, and about 16,000 of these on the road in North America alone, and they deliver around 5 million cases of food a day to our customers.
I see a slightly bigger version of this when I drive to work at
Just a little bit.
VMware, and love those trucks, love your brand, love all you're doing. Matt, you've been a pioneer in a lot of what Cisco is doing with some of the things we talked about earlier. AirWatch, Workspace ONE, public cloud, AWS. We'll talk about that in a second. But NSX for you has been transformational. You were early in adopting this.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about why that was so important to you.
Sure. So at Cisco, I mean, we're what a lot of people would consider a very traditional industry. I mean, we move food from one place to another. We do it very efficiently. We're the best in the world at that. But like many industries, we're seeing a lot of opportunities for technology to disrupt our industry. So to get to where we want to be, to serve our customers as well as we do today in the future, we realize that there's a need for disruption. We need to do things more quickly. We need to have greater agility in everything we do. And a part of that is infrastructure. And so we went after the servers first. There was a lot of opportunities. We worked with VMware on that. And now, after that, we went after the network, which is really saying we can't bottleneck getting what our customers need at any point in our infrastructure. And NSX has been fantastic at accelerating our ability to provision networks, at securing our networks. Microsegmentation is something that we are deploying today. We are putting it against some of our most sensitive workloads, being able to ring-fence those from the rest of our data center. And then also the combination of what we're doing is we're rolling out Workspace ONE today and being able to take individual users and use the per-app VPN tunnel from a Workspace ONE managed device into that segmented workload. It's amazing. It's technology we're very, very excited about.
So you've got NSX and its use case around microsegmentation around the data center, transformative, but you also were able to connect it into the end user landscape. And it's a key technology to what we'd also see in the public cloud. So as you think about all three of those landscapes, data center, end user, and public cloud, NSX is critical.
Absolutely. I mean, we see the challenge of, and we're a multi-cloud company, and the challenge of managing different clouds in different ways, I mean, be it daily operations, whether it's costs, networking in particular, having to go to different tool sets and different management planes for every section of your network as for applications that span multiple clouds is incredibly challenging. And the opportunity to start using NSX in a multi-cloud manner is very exciting to us.
Awesome. And Matt, you were telling me during the break that in the early usage of VMware Cloud and AWS, because you're starting to pilot it, you were able to spin up a data center in like literally, a couple of hours?
No, it's so, I mean, my background is engineering, so I'm someone I like to tinker, even though I'm in a leadership role now, and I got the credentials to our Lighthouse environment and
for VMware Cloud.
For VMware Cloud on AWS. And I sat down around lunchtime and logged in, and I just played around with it during, during meetings, between meetings in the afternoon, and I was able to build a data center. I was able to build networks. I was able to open firewalls, assign public IPs, and build a web server out on the internet in about 4 hours.
All while you were all doing other meetings?
All while I was doing other meetings. And
incredible. Wow, that's quite something to talk about. And we're hoping it gets even easier and faster, and you can take your lunch breaks, coffee breaks.
I'm looking forward to
that's good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the future. One of the things I've appreciated about your IT leadership from Wayne to Frank to you is the movement agile. I mean, to think about a logistics distribution company, agile is key. But where are you taking this notion of agile as you think about the future?
Absolutely. So we're undergoing a complete transformation in the way we do technology. As a starter, even when our CIO, Wayne, came in, he rebranded the entire organization Business Technology because technology exists to support the business, not for the sake of itself. But we are currently transforming into product teams, so every part of technology gets a product they're focused on. We're doing a lot of work in breaking apart our systems and our applications from monoliths into microservices, connecting things with APIs. It's a really exciting time to be in technology at Cisco, and just to see that as we make these changes, how much more value we can bring to our business and our customers with a lot of speed.
So the ideas of microservices, containers, all in your active look at where you will be headed.
Absolutely. I mean, today we're doing containers on our new applications with CI/CD pipelines, and we're starting to go after our legacy applications and breaking them up and applying the same principles.
So small plug, stay tuned. Many of you tomorrow, we're going to talk a lot more about containers and microservices and so on and so forth. And I think, Matt, you'll like what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. Thank you for being here, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Nikolaev.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think Matt just threw the gauntlet down for all of us techie kind of folks. Spin up a data center on your lunch break. Let's dive into now what may be the most important topic of them all, security. And when we think about security, it's really sort of a simple assignment: protect the apps and data. And how do you do that in an increasingly mobile and cloud and connected world where the attack vectors become more and more diverse and the target becomes richer, right, and more promising? How do you approach that? And as we think about that picture, look at this. This is the security industry. Isn't that just incredible? Right? Think about the complexity, right, of all of the products and services that industry has. Over $100 billion a year is being spent on security, and the cost of breaches is even greater and growing even faster. And in that incredible complexity, your job as IT leader is to make it all work. Fundamentally, we, the tech industry, have failed you, the customer. It is simply too hard, too complex, and breaches are growing far too fast. We need a new approach. And fundamentally at VMware, we believe that there's three parts to this strategy that we need to do to restructure the solution and the industry. First, secure infrastructure, where literally we need to build it in, architect it in. We need many of those components to go away. They have to become native capabilities of the infrastructure itself. Second, we need to deeply architect in with the ecosystem, the controls, the context, the automation, the validation, the solution, and work with key players like Palo Alto, SecureWorks, Symantec, and again, make many of those solutions standardize and go away. And finally, we got to return to the basics. This is like a great sports team. And a great sports team practices the basics over and over again and gets really, really good at it. Every major breach over the last 5 years that's made headlines, Sony and OPM and Target, would have been dramatically reduced or entirely eliminated if simple cyber hygiene policies were followed. And we believe those cyber hygiene policies are really pretty straightforward. We see that these 5 things, right, just like a sports team, if we were doing these, we would be so much better. One is least privilege. Unless you explicitly have access, you don't. Second, microsegmentation. Carve up the network. It's like getting to the bank and just getting in the front lobby, you've gotten nowhere. You've got many layers to get to the good stuff. Encryption. When you steal my data, you've just gotten a bag of bits if you don't have the key to go with it. Multi-factor. You phish my password, you got nothing unless you have that second or third of my multi-factor. And patching. WannaCry and Petya. And these, what we'll call cyber hygiene principles, we're releasing a white paper today, the simple principles of cyber hygiene. And to us, these are critical things that we got to, as an industry, get back to the basic, and we need to make the basics easy to do. And this is a matter that is central to tech and to business, but also a role for government and policy. And we're thrilled to see a bipartisan effort coming together to drive at the government level and into industry. And let's hear now from Representative Eshoo and Senator Hatch on the topic of cyber hygiene.
Hello, VMworld. I'm Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah.
Hello, VMworld. My name is Anna Eshoo.
With cyber hackers growing bolder in their attacks, strengthening our cybersecurity infrastructure remains among my top priorities.
We know that the cyber networks of our country, of our government, how important they are to our national security. VMware was very, very essential in an effort that happily has been launched in the Congress.
I recently joined my good friend Congresswoman Anna Eshoo in introducing the bipartisan Promoting Good Cyber Hygiene Act.
Up to 90% of breaches are due to the lack of hygiene systems and good security management.
Fortunately, there are a few key principles that can help prevent many of these cyber attacks.
We're all in this together, and we can all benefit from this together as well. That's the most exciting part of it.
I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues in Congress and with all of you.
So thank you to Representative and Senator Hatch. So let's dig in a little bit more on this idea of secure infrastructure. And we've been on a journey for several years to build more of these components into what we do. With Workspace ONE, secure apps, right, secure, and with AirWatch, secure devices, and the two of those bringing together a consistent device and application across any corporate or BYO device. In the network, the number one use case for NSX has been microsegmentation, this ability to compartmentalize and segregate networks. Encryption has traditionally been hard, difficult, and expensive. Now with vSAN, it's simple and cost-effective. And finally, compute. Now, we've never really used that compute layer as a security layer before. Today, that changes. And most of security is about what we'll call chasing bad. And if we think about a compute stack, you typically have an operating environment. And in that operating environment, you have an operating system, a number of processes are running. And the typical application is made of many of these. And the security process is chasing bad. It's trying to find amongst these millions or billions of things going on that little piece of bad. Now, that is really hard. But can't we think about doing that a different way? Maybe ensuring good. And in fact, chasing bad is like a needle in a haystack. There's a whole lot of hay to crawl through. Ensuring good is getting rid of most of the hay and just having a few straws to go look at. Literally flipping the security model on its head. And that's exactly what App Defense is. App Defense allows us to capture good. Right, and we do that by first the provisioning environment, vRealize, Puppet, being able to say this is the intended application. Combining that with machine learning, the VM learns itself and develops a manifest for its own operation. Then a network service and APIs that allow for network effects to be benefiting and from other parties to build on this. Second, real-time detection. The VM itself begins monitoring its behavior, and it can immediately detect when its behavior deviates from good. It is never okay to write the master boot record of your OS image, right? We tested this with Petya and WannaCry, and immediately the flags went off. And finally, we can automate response. With App Defense, we can immediately trigger behaviors. We can go into full packet capture. We can honeypot services. We can stop VMs. We can issue alerts. It really is game-changing to ensure good. And while it's early, and we just began shipping this month, extraordinary interest from the ecosystem of partners to work with. A lot of enthusiasm for this game-changing approach. And we're excited today to have with us Mark from IBM to tell us about their embrace of App Defense. Mark, please join me on stage.
How you doing, man?
Hey, Mark.
Good to see you.
Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here. Wow.
Yeah, this is really great. The energy is just wonderful. And, IBM, you guys are known for a lot of things, a tremendous history, but security. I don't think people realize how big and powerful in security you are.
Yeah, so I looked at that same image that you showed a few slides back. About 6 years ago, we looked at all that fragmented security marketplace, all those vendors, and decided to build a business at IBM based on analytics. So a lot of huge firewall companies, a lot of huge antivirus companies. We wanted to do something different, right up IBM's alley, based on analytics, and we built a business, and today I have the honor of leading that, like you do VMware. I lead this business. It's a huge honor. 8,000 employees around the world, $2 billion in revenue, and we've become one of the largest enterprise players in the world. And actually, I was crammed into a JetBlue on the way here yesterday, stuffed with, I think, almost all 20,000 people in this arena.
Really? They fit all in that one plane?
Yeah, it was
amazing.
Packed, but we got through it. I was sitting next to a couple of really friendly customers of yours, Andy and Paul. And Paul was a user of a bunch of my capability, QRadar, BigFix, a bunch of other capability in our solution. And I kind of, by the end of a long flight, he kind of talked a little bit about what we're announcing today, and he's super excited because this really is a match made in heaven. So our customers are going to be excited about this.
Good. Well, go a little bit further there. Tell us, what do you think about the VMware strategy that you just heard me articulate, and App Defense as a new capability?
Well, I'm very excited. The VMware strategy, first of all, obviously fits very well with where IBM's headed, both for IBM Cloud, and I'm representing IBM Security. And I'm excited about it, and probably more credibly for all of you, a lot of the geekiest people on my security team are really excited about App Defense, right? So it does what you say, right? It reduces the attack surface immensely through how it locks down the system, all those hygiene elements that you mentioned. From my perspective as a security analytics provider with thousands of customers using products like QRadar in their security operations centers, it takes VM information from a security perspective, from like a grainy, almost still film, to high-res live feed. So it is a deep analytics behavioral engine that you guys are adding on top of your VMs that's providing me as a security company lots of data that I can do stuff with. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, that's so good to hear, and obviously many of the analytics and Watson capabilities that IBM is investing in so heavily. So talk a little bit about how we're going to bring this to market together.
Yep, so today we're announcing a partnership in this area, and we are collaborating on an application. And what that's going to do is that application is going to bridge between App Defense and our security operations and analytics technology. So QRadar, Watson for Cyber, our resilient response and orchestration technology. So we're making this app. It'll be done by the end of the year. And that will take all of the information, that visibility that App Defense now provides. It'll bring it into the Security Operations Center, and it'll start to combine it with all that we know about the rest of the environment. It'll give context, it'll give more analysis, and it'll give action. And actually, today in the showroom here at the conference, we are showing what we can do here, and we can literally go from finding that kind of incident like Petya and WannaCry to actually quarantine and taking action on the VM. So it's a very powerful way of going from analytics context to orchestrating an action and defending better.
Well, Mark, it's great to have the opportunity to just tell our audience a little bit more about what IBM is doing in security and our partnership. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here. Take care.
Changing security, turning the problem around, restructuring the industry, powerful, powerful things. And the comprehensive view of security, right? Enabling secure infrastructure, deeply integrated ecosystem, and doing the simple things really consistently and well with cyber hygiene. In our first spotlight session right after this, keynote time, Tom Korn will be giving a live demonstration of App Defense in operation. We'll have a live attack and a live response using App Defense, and really encourage you to go see that session. It really is exciting about how this turns security on its head. It's been a tremendous few years together. Think about the progress that we have made together. It really is thrilling to see this any device, any application world now being delivered through any cloud environment and stretching that to be even more pervasive. What we do as an industry is reaching into the core infrastructure of the network, out to the edge, and reaching more machine-connected devices than ever before. Transformation before our very eyes. Our agenda is to continue to innovate, to continue to drive, continue to envision the future so that you can realize business transformation and that you personally can realize your full potential as well. Together, we can realize what's possible. We're excited to share an example of how all this technology and innovation is brought together to bear fruit, not just in technical or business terms, but how we serve communities and save people's lives. It's my pleasure to have Red Cross here with us on stage. Let's join us and see Red Cross right now.
There's nothing more gratifying than being able to help other people. Really, I think that's what we're meant to do on this earth. When you're out and you're helping people, and you drive through the neighborhood, you see all of their belongings stacked up on the edge of the street. You don't judge them, you don't pick and choose, you take them as you find them and you help them.
there's always going to be somewhere to go because the Red Cross is here.
They show up out of nowhere, the Red Cross. I don't know how they do it. When they show up, there's cots, there's beds, there's blankets, there's food, there's water, there's stuff, all this stuff that will take care of people right here, right now, right on the spot.
If it wasn't for the Red Cross, we wouldn't have a place to go. We wouldn't have the help. These people made us feel so welcome. It was a blessing.
The Red Cross to me means someone that actually will listen to my story and care that someone like me is out there and offered the help that y'all have offered.
Well, after that poignant video, Dave, I don't even know how to start, but what an impact the American Red Cross is having on the world. We think of Hurricane Harvey. Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah.
You know, this is a time where we want to be thinking about how we can help. You guys have been having a tremendous impact. When we start with Hurricane Harvey, how is American Red Cross helping the world right now?
Sure. So as of right now, I think we have about 34 shelters open. As of Saturday, we had 3,000 people in the shelters, and they're expecting up to 30,000. So we have a lot of resources on the ground there in Texas and Louisiana right now. Certainly for a lot of people, the worst is yet to come. So as we're all dry and very warm here in Vegas, it's really hard to imagine the reality of some of these folks that are impacted by Harvey right now, and will be for months and years to come. So the Red Cross will be there doing casework for people affected for months and years to come after everybody's cleaned up and gone home.
That's great. Thank you for the impact you're having. Many of you are involved as volunteers. Your force actually is not just employees, but you have a number of volunteers. Give us a sense of the scale of your operation, both employees and volunteers.
20,000 employees roughly, and over 300,000 volunteers help to deliver the mission of the Red Cross.
That's amazing. Can we give anybody of you who are volunteers a hand? Thank you. We appreciate your service. It's a fantastic organization. And in that landscape, when you think about your end user landscape, you were an early adopter of vSphere, and then an early adopter of Fusion and Workstation, adopted VDI, and then AirWatch. Talk to us about, in this both employee and contract workforce, why that end user landscape was very important to you.
Sure. Well, we're a mobile organization, case in point with what's going on in Texas and Louisiana right now, and flooding in Kansas and Missouri, and wildfires in Oregon. So we're really a mobile organization, but our technology got behind, so we weren't as mobile as we wanted to be. So the acquisition of these technologies has helped us both on a mobility standpoint and also help pave the way for us to deliver new modern technology, whether it's hardware or whether it's software, whether Windows 10, new browsers, applications, but still allow us to align to the legacy line of business applications that aren't yet as modern.
And you see a world where whether it's the employees or these contractors, they'll be able to get any app on their particular device.
It's a little cliche, but it's really real for us. Any device, anywhere, and that's what we've been able to do, and that's what we're still working towards.
And literally anywhere means like anywhere in the world.
Anywhere you can get internet.
That's awesome. That's great. It's amazing. It's been a partnership. I talked about that with the other customers too. How has that partnership worked out between VMware and the American Red Cross?
Very well. We've had a good partnership. It's continuing to grow. We've got great support from your organization all the way down.
That's awesome. Great to hear. Maybe as we close, it'd be good to give the audience here a sense as to how many of them may be interested in helping.
Sure.
How can the audience get involved in helping, especially in this time around Hurricane Harvey?
Well, as Pat said earlier, certainly donations are always go directly towards helping the victims. But there's other ways, right? You can give your time. In 2014, we started a home fire campaign. So in your local community, and since 2014, we've installed almost 1 million smoke alarms and saved 268 lives as a result. So if you want to give of your time, if you want to give blood, as I do, you can do that. So it's not just dollars. You can give blood, you can give time and experience. And the best way to do that is go to either your local chapter, if you know where it is, or go to redcross.org, find out where your local chapter is, or other ways to get involved.
I've donated blood before. I'm going to do it again. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Dave Bowmore. Thank you for being with us, Dave.
Thank you.
Take care. Great. All right. Well, VMworld, are you guys having fun in this keynote? All right. Pat, I think you and I can do a better job than Wolf Blitzer and Anderson Cooper. So we got a future in this wonderful show. What I'd like to do as we wrap up is just give you a sense as to what you're going to be seeing over the course of the next couple of days and why we picked some of these tracks. Because as we looked at much of the way in which you're spending your dollars, we follow CIO surveys very rigorously, we see hundreds of priorities. And we boiled out from those hundreds of priorities 8 that are some core areas that you're spending on. Typically, cloud computing and security stands out among the top 2. You'll see other areas like digital transformation and mobile. And then we honed in further to have the entire focus of our company around what we feel are 3 core priorities in infrastructure spending: cloud, mobile, and security. And that's what you've heard through the course of the keynote today from Pat. And mobile, by the way, doesn't mean just a mobile device. It means being on the move. Cloud doesn't mean just public cloud. It means private cloud and public cloud. And that's, in essence, what we've done with even the story of VMware. When you think about our story, we redefined the data center, but we see that moving to the cloud. We've redefined the desktop, and we see that moving increasingly mobile. And security is a layer that surrounds all of it from the data center to the endpoint. This one chart, by the way, is what I encourage all of my sales reps in the field to show rather than 100 PowerPoints. I usually tell people if you've got 100 PowerPoints, there's usually no power and probably very little point to it. But this one chart gives you the sense of what VMware's transformational impact is across cloud, mobile, and security. Now, if you take that cloud area, what you're going to see in the breakouts are 2 subtracks. Modernizing the data center is all about the private cloud and ensuring you can get more and more cost and complexity run out of that, because the private cloud does have a future, as you saw from many of our customers. Integrating the public cloud. Andy Jassy and Pat talked about VMware and AWS, a pioneering offering, one of a kind in the industry. You're going to hear more about that in that track. And then in the mobile area, it's all about a digital workspace. You heard so eloquently from customers like Capital One, any app on any device. And finally, we think through the power of NSX and app defense, you can fundamentally transform networking and security. One of the other things that's super exciting to us has been the level of involvement of you customers. There's like 25,000 odd we think will be here or watching in. And there's 200 customers, a record number, that are presenting in tracks in here. So if you are one of those customers presenting, I want to give you a hand. Can we give the customers who are presenting these breakouts a hand? Here are 200 of you. And if you're feeling jealous of these folks who are presenting, we want more of you, like twice the number next year. This is a record for any show to have 200 of you doing this. We have just a whole bunch of them that are doing many aspects of this. We think that as you do this, these were just snap photos of many of you as you're preparing for this. We think we can help you realize what's possible. Now, a quick plug before I wrap up for what's happening tomorrow. Super important, we're going to have a fireside chat with our chairman, Michael Dell, and our CEO, Pat Gelsinger. And many of you have questions in your mind. So if you log into the mobile app, you can submit your question. There's a very simple way. You'll get an alert all the way up to midnight tonight. And we actually have a very special secret announcement we're also going to be making tomorrow, which you don't want to miss. So don't stay out too late and miss tomorrow. You want to be here. It's going to be some incredible news. And with that, I want to wish you all an incredible conference. The theme is helping every one of you realize what's possible. Thank you very much. Have a great VMworld.